Now inside of the index.php, if we start with the opening PHP tag, then require once, and we're going to require once the file which will autoload our classes, so inc autoload.php. Then we will create a new object called object core, and this will be the instance of the new core class. Then object core will call the method called run, and then semicolon at the end, and that's everything in this file. So we can save it and close it. Now inside of the root of our project, create a new folder called inc, which will be for our includes. First file we're going to create there is obviously autoload.php, and another one called config.php. We start with the autoload one. Again, opening tag at the beginning of the file. We don't need to use the closing one because the only code which will be here is going to be the PHP. We start with the session start. After this, we require once our config file. So it's going to be config.php. It's within the same folder, so the name of the file is going to be good enough. Then we create the function called __ autoload, and we pass the name of the class into this function. Now we start class equals explode, and we're going to be exploding with the underscore, and we pass the class name. So now our class variable becomes an array if obviously there are any underscores within the class name, and then we concatenate this using implode function. So path equals implode, and our underscores will become / class, and then we add .php right at the end. Okay, let's do it double quotes as well for consistency here. Then ensign, and we have require once path. Why we're using this add sign here is because obviously if the file doesn't exist, it won't throw any errors, so at least we avoid any errors being displayed on the page. If you want to see these errors, obviously remove this add sign, and that's it. So okay, so our autoload file is now ready. So if we save it and close it, now if we go to config, and inside of the config file, we start with the opening PHP tag again, and we're going to define a few constants here. So first one will be directory separator. So defined, we check if the specific constant is already defined. Otherwise, we're going to define it. So ds, and it's going to be directory separator. So that's our first constant. Now I'm going to copy all this, paste it underneath, and the next one will be root path to our public.html folder. So root path, and the constant name will be root underscore path. Now let's copy this here. And for root path, I'm going to close the file browser. For the root path, we're going to use the function real path. Inside of the real path, we'll take dir name, which is directory name, and then constant file, which is basically pointing to the file from which this constant is called. Then outside of this, we go ds, which is basically / if you're using Linux or Mac. If it's Windows, it's going to be \. That's why we're using this directory separator to automatically figure out what path separator should we be using. Then concatenating dot, and we're going out one label. So if we show file browser, as you can see, our config.php is inside of the inc folder, If we go up one directory, we're going to be in public.html. So this is where this root path will be pointing to our public.html. Okay, I'm going to close it again. So this is now defined. And now if we copy all this, again, next constant will be called classes path, which will point to the folder where our classes are placed. And it's going to be root path, ds, and then classes. This folder doesn't exist yet, but we will create it a little bit later on. So we have classes path. Now let's copy this constant again. And the next one, I'm going to create a few new lines so we can see a little bit better. Classes path, and then we have template path. Template path, there we go, and it's template. Okay, next one will be images directory. And it's going to be media. Okay, if we copy this again, paste it lower, this time we're going to have images thumbnail directory. As we're going to be creating thumbnails and large images, we're going to resize large images, and thumbnails will be resized and cropped. And obviously we need to call it images underscore thumbnail dir, and that's going to be images dir and then thumbnail. Okay, then we have images large directory, so thumbnail replace with large. Same thing, only thumbnail becomes large now. If we copy this, paste it underneath, then we have images path, because we've got directory but we don't have a path, full path. So it's going to be images path, and images path will be root path. So I'm going to copy this bit from here, root path, and then images dir. Okay, we're going to stop here and we move to the next video to make sure that we obviously don't have like videos like 20 minutes long.